In the 90s, male tennis was dominated by two giants, Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras was groomed to be the finest tennis player in the world from an early age. And when he achieved that status, he then set out to become the best player in the history of the game. Some of Pete's achievements have now been overtaken by the great Swiss Roger Federer, but his most illustrious records still remain. If you've ever wondered who Pete Sampras is, then this video is for you. Make sure to stick to the end as we find out more about Peter. Pete is an American tennis player who has held the world #1 rank many times throughout his career. His tennis career lasted 15 years, during which time he won a total of 14 Grand Slam men's singles championships in 52 appearances, which was an all-time record at the time of his retirement. 7 Wimbledon championships, 2 Australian Open titles, and a joint Open-era record of 5 US Open titles. He also holds the record for holding down the #1 spot on the ATP rankings for 6 years in a row during the Open era, from 1993 to 1998. Pete was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in July 2007. The American was born in Washington, D.C. on August 12, 1971, to Sammy and Georgia Sampras, being the third child of his parents. Pete's mother moved from Sparta, Greece, while his father, Kostas Gus Sampras, was born in the United States to a Greek father and a Polish-Jewish mother, Sarah Steinberg. He used to go to a Greek Orthodox church every Sunday when he was a kid, and he excelled at sports games as a kid as well. His first encounter with tennis occurred when he discovered a tennis racket in his home's basement, and he spent the next few hours hitting balls against the wall. In 1978, the Sampras family relocated to Palos Verdes, California, since the place offered a warmer climate and allowed 7-year-old Pete to play tennis for most of the year. Rod Laver was Pete's idol from an early age, and at the age of 11, Pete met and played tennis with the legend. The Sampras family became the Jack Kramer Club members, where Pete's ability was discovered. He trained with tennis teacher Robert Lansdorp when he was a teenager and used the same forehand he learned from Lansdorp for the rest of his career. Driving through the ball rather than hitting severe topspin was the key. Pete was then noticed by a pediatrician and tennis enthusiast, Dr. Peter Fisher, who coached him until 1989. His double-handed backhand was converted to a single-handed backhand by Fisher in order to improve Pete's chances of winning Wimbledon. Pete's mother was born in Greece, while his father was born to a Greek father and a Jewish mother in the United States. His older sister, Stella Sampras Webster, is the head coach of UCLA's women's tennis team, while his younger sister, Marian, is a Los Angeles teacher. Gus, Pete's older brother, was the tournament director for the ATP event in Scottsdale in 2003. Pete is married to Bridget Wilson, an American actress and former Miss Teen USA, and has been together since September 30th, 2000. However, the road to their marriage began on May 29th, 2000, when Pete was defeated by Mark Philosopis in the first round of the French Open. Pete and Bridget announced their engagement shortly after. According to the Diamond Information Center, publicist for Fred Leighton, the jeweler who gave the jewels, the 26-year-old bride walked down the aisle in a Vera Wang gown and over $400,000 worth of diamond jewelry. Pete, who was 29 at the time of his marriage, had amassed a fortune of $39 million from his professional career. In 2001, Pete was discovered to have a thalassemia minor, a blood disorder that makes him run out of oxygen when he exerts himself. A hereditary characteristic that might produce moderate anemia in certain people. The disease ultimately led to his retirement in 2002. Pete and Bridget are blessed with 2 children, Christian Charles and Ryan Nicolius Sampras. Christian was born on November 21, 2002, while Ryan was born on July 29, 2005. The family now resides in Lake Sherwood, California. The property, which is listed for $25 million, has a tennis court, a swimming pool with views of the mountains, miniature homes, and a 2,000-square-foot gym. The house features stone and wood flooring, a large guest house, and a 360-degree view of the breathtaking countryside. Pete has significant political ties as well. He is a Republican who supported John McCain in 2008. After his retirement in 2002, Pete was away from the scene for 3 years before resurfacing in 2006 for his first exhibition match. He played his first exhibition match against 23-year-old Robbie Ginepri at River Oaks, Houston, Texas on April 6, 2006. Ginepri was victorious in 2 sets, and Pete went further to announce that he would be competing in the World Team Tennis event. In 2007, he said he would participate in a few events on the Outback Championship Series tournaments, a collection of tournaments for former ATP players who had satisfied specific requirements during their careers. Pete went on to win his first 2 tournaments on tour, defeating Todd Martin in both finals, one of which featured his first trip to Greece, his ancestral homeland. Many commentators remarked that despite Pete's long absence from competitive tennis tournaments, he still maintained many of the abilities he had demonstrated while on the ATP Tour, with commentator John McEnroe even suggesting that if Pete entered Wimbledon, he would be deserving of a top 5 seeding. But with the likes of Roger Federer and Nadal, David Ferrer, and Djokovic that year, the legend might not make it past the second round. On November 20th, 2007, Pete lost the first of 3 exhibition matches in Asia against the then world number 1 Roger Federer in Seoul, Korea. He was defeated again by Federer in 2 tiebreaks 2 days later in Kuala Lumpur. Pete, however, was able to win the last match of the series in 2 sets on a fast carpet. On February 18, 2008, during the SAP Open, Pete defeated another current player, former number 2 Tommy Haas, in an exhibition match. In 43 minutes, Pete had slain the German. He played another exhibition match against number 1 Roger Federer in Madison Square Garden in New York City on March 10, 2008, but lost the match in 3 close sets for the second time. Pete won 2 Outback Champion Series victories in 2009. In February, he beat McEnroe in the Champions Cup Boston Final, and in March, he beat Patrick Rafter in the Del Mar Development Champions Cup Final. He was in attendance at the 2009 Wimbledon final between Andy Roddick and Roger Federer, where Federer broke his record of 14 major titles, which lasted for 7 years to become the most successful man in Grand Slam history. Pete played another exhibition doubles match in Indian Wells the next year with Roger Federer, Andre Agassi, and Rafael Nadal to collect money for the people of Haiti who had been devastated by the earthquake. Then, in November 2010, Pete reported that several of his trophies and memorabilia were stolen from a West Los Angeles public storage facility. The loss included the trophy from his maiden Australian Open triumph, 2 Davis Cups, an Olympic ring, and 6 trophies for finishing top in the year-end rankings. He described the loss as having the history of my tennis life ripped away from me. Pete and his family were moving between living arrangements when the items were stolen. He expressed his disappointment at the loss, saying he would have loved to present the trophies to his children and hoped somebody offered a solution. Luckily, most of the stolen things were eventually discovered and returned, proving that his prayers had been answered. They were dumped anonymously at the back of a Los Angeles hospital. The trophies were discovered when a private investigator received information that they were going to be placed at a Los Angeles hospital. The investigator notified hospital security, who were able to collect several of the 14-time Grand Slam champions trophies. On November 17, 2011, the following year, Pete played and lost an exhibition match against Milos Raonic. Ever since then, he had been off the grid once again. During his career, it was a norm that Pete didn't like the publicity that came with being a superstar. He always said no interviews, press conferences, and promotional appearances. So it's no surprise that he has been away from the media after his retirement. Despite retiring 2 decades ago, his record for 6 consecutive years as world number 1 still stands. What are your thoughts about Pete? Comment below.